a while back now, had no internet, had no YouTube, so it's a while back now. A good mate, Stan, Steel Helmet Stan, gave me a suggestion for a video, and it revolved around Once Upon a Time in the West. Now you might have noticed, probably you haven't, but I've never made a video about Once Upon a Time in the West other than when I've touched on it in Clint Eastwood videos. Clint Eastwood wasn't in Once Upon a Time in the West, you say? Yeah, but I still had to touch on it because of various issues. Go see those videos. So anyway, that's why I've never made a video about Once Upon a Time in the West, because it's like saying, can you make a quick 5-minute video about the Bible? Well, what I've decided to do, I'm going to do little bits and maybe put them all under a playlist, all to do with Once Upon a Time in the West. The thing about Once Upon a Time in the West is it is Sergio Leone was the director that made these movies. And he made the spaghetti westerns into the massive, what anyone says, it's him and him alone, possibly his music man as well, that made spaghetti westerns a worldwide name. So when it comes to Once Upon a Time in the West, what I'm going to say to start with is that the US Library of Congress has said Once Upon a Time in the West, spaghetti western by Sergio Leone, is one of the most important westerns ever made. Can you believe that? I'm going to explain why, possibly in a number of other videos, but in this one what I want to tell you is that Sergio Leone made a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and his piece de resistance was The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Now when he made those 3 movies, in his head, a bit like Tarantino with his, I'm going to do this and that'll be the end of it, he was never going to make another western. He had made a western that was a huge hit. He followed it up with an even bigger hit. He followed it up with number 3, Good, Bad and Ugly, monstrous, massive hit. He was never going to make another western. His dream project was Once Upon a Time in America, which was about the creation, if you like, of the criminal underworld in America, the mafia, and that's what his dream project was. So, blackmail. This is a story of crime, intrigue and blackmail, because he was approached by mega American studio, and they said, we will give you mega dollars to make your dream project of Once Upon a Time in America, and in fact we'll give you so much money you'll make the greatest movie of all time. And that's when he thought to himself, ooh, perhaps I'll make Once Upon a Time in America a trilogy, just like my trilogy of Dollar Trilogy. But then the massive American studio said, there's a small catch. You must first make us one more western. Wasn't happy to do this, but they were throwing so much money at him to make another western that he, quite funny actually, he was made an offer he couldn't refuse. It wasn't a horse's head in bed, had to cover his ears up when I said about that, because that's the offer in The Godfather that couldn't be refused, was his favourite horse. Let's not talk about that. So moving on, so Sergio Leone says, yes, you are throwing so much money at me, and same studio, the rights to all of these actors, it have to be a separate video about how many big name actors were offered to him to make this western. So he sat down and he said, if I'm going to make this western, he would have said it with a heavily, I don't think he could speak English actually. Anyway, if I'm going to make this western, I am going to make this artistically, and so to make it truly artistic, to prove that I never wanted to make this western and that my western era is over, I'm going to take my 3 big stars from my westerns. I'm going to take Eli Wallach, I'm going to take Lee Van Cleef, and I'm going to take Mr. Clint Eastwood. And the movie's going to open with the 3 of them, and I'm going to kill them. So that was his plan. 3 huge megastars at the opening scenes of this Western, and they were going to get killed. So he went to Eli Wallach and said this is what his plan was for his giant mega Western that he was about to make. And Eli Wallach said, done, deal, tell me when, tell me where, I will be there. So then he went to Lee Van Cleef, and Lee Van Cleef said, I've got some contractual problems at the moment, I'm committed to some projects, these are the dates of those projects, I want to do it, fit me in. And then he went to Mr. Clint Eastwood. Now you've got to remember when this is. This is early days. This is before Clint's really taken off huge. It's probably around the time of maybe Hang 'em High, say. Anyway, goes to Mr. Clint Eastwood, and Mr. Clint Eastwood thinks about it for approximately 7/10 of a second and says, no way, ever, ever in a million years will I have a small part in a movie where I get killed off. Not doing it, forget it. So there you go. So much more we can talk about Once Upon a Time in the West. There's a small part. People say who was supposed to be in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, who was supposed to be in the first Dollar movie. Charles Bronson was supposed to do it. Charles Bronson turned it down. Then he realised how big they were, so he came back for all in other videos that we'll make. For now, let's hope this video actually works, because these are all being made when I don't even know if I've got internet, computer, editing. Thanks for watching. If you're watching, if anyone's watching, cheers.